Good morning again, and welcome back to commsHERO Week, the third session of this first day. And I'm delighted to introduce Abigail Dixon, author and podcast host, The Whole Marketer, and director and founder of Labyrinth Marketing. And so, welcome, Abigail. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Fantastic to have you here on the first day, the opening day of what will be a jam-packed week full of sessions. So what does it take to be a whole marketer is what Abigail's going to take you through. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Abigail, and I'll be back at the end to pick up any comments and questions. So please drop them in, because you've got a great opportunity to ask some questions to a fantastic marketer. You're going to love the whole marketer concept, as indeed I do as well. So enjoy the next few minutes with Abigail, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A and comments.
Brilliant. Thank you, Asif. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you are listening to this. So as Asif mentioned, I'm going to talk you through what it is to be a whole marketer. As he mentioned, I am a chartered marketeer, a fellow, a course director of the CIM. I'm also an accredited coach, and as well as leading my own consultancy, I also am podcast host and author of The Whole Marketer. So the reason I say that is because I want you to know that I'm a practitioner. I'm not sitting here with a theoretical concept. I'm sitting here as someone who has a unique view of seeing, having been a marketeer for 22 years and still practicing, also having a unique view of the marketers that I see every day, whether that's I'm coaching, training, mentoring, speaking with them behind the scenes, helping them develop concepts, process, strategy. It's that unique view. And it's that drove me to develop The Whole Marketer. So let's start off there. What do I mean by whole? So when I say whole, I'm talking about a complete marketer, a marketer who is developing themselves holistically and is the full package. A good saying that I've adopted is mindset is what separates the best from the rest. I can train, as with any others that I'm sure you're going to hear today, new concepts, techniques, approaches, theoretical models, give you advice. But those that really take that forward are those that adopt that growth mindset, those that have the personal understanding. And they are rounded. They're not just focused on a specialism. They're not just focused on a specialism. They are thinking about that team marketer, the one that has the breadth and the depth of that understanding, but not just the technical skills. Okay, so what are we concerned with? We're concerned with marketeers that not only know the what they need to do, but they have the soft skills and leadership skills to know how to bring that to life. And most importantly, in my opinion, they know why they are doing what they are doing. They have that personal understanding. They know their motivations. They're really utilizing that in their everyday practice. So the whole marketer concept is where we know the technical skills that we need today to grow the brands and businesses of tomorrow, the soft and leadership skills to reflect the change that marketing has been on and is still going on, where we've moved from a support function to one that should be leading the commercial agenda, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But also to have the leadership skills. I find that we've got moved from being that support function, which means that we need to lead those cross-functional teams. We need to be able to lead our own team. We need to be able to lead the wider business. And that takes a separate set of skills. That means that we really need to face into the role of being a marketing leader or a business leader, and really making sure that we're developing whole marketeers in our care, as well as making sure that the role of marketing gets elevated within our organization. And then last, but by no means least, that personal understanding, the why you do what you do. So the question I want to pose to you today is, are you a successful marketer, or are you a fulfilled marketer? And for me, those two things really need to go hand in hand. We need to have, we must have passionate marketeers in our profession. Those who do possess those technical skills, but to also be the forefront of the industry. The thing I love about the profession is that it's ever changing and ever evolving. There's always the latest skill, the latest approach that we could adopt. So we need to know what those are. Even if we don't want to necessarily build them into our everyday practice, we do need to be able to be at the forefront of the industry. And it's those technical skills that allow us to be a successful marketer. So let's just talk about those technical skills for a second. If we think, I'm just going to go here for a second. If we think about the role of marketing, it hasn't changed. If you take the CIM's definition of marketing, to identify, anticipate, and satisfy the wants and needs of our consumers or customers profitably, it hasn't changed. But the way in which we do it and the power that marketing now has and the beauty of it that the organization has seen has changed. Okay. We are now leading that long-term commercial agenda. That means we need to raise our ability and our commercial acumen. We need to take accountability for the growth of the business. We need to demonstrate effectiveness and ensure that everything that we're doing ladders up to an investment for the business, both in the short and the long term. And the key thing that people always say to me is, well, I work in an organization that's very sales-led, Abby. What would you suggest that I do? Build your insight. We have the beauty of having the voice of the customer, of knowing them better than anyone else in the organization. So how do we build that insight? How do we make sure that we are able to get that living and breathing through the whole organization? Because for me, that's where the change starts, when we start becoming consumer orientated. So what is that true potential of marketing? The power that we are able to set that long-term agenda for the business, the vision, the corporate goals, the mission of the organization, the purpose. We are really clear on where that business is heading. And that, in light of that, we then set the strategic direction. What are the choices that we are making about what markets we're choosing to play in, what segments, whether targeting, positioning, even if you're adopting a different targeting positioning approach, really having that clarity of thought. The next is that commercial agenda. So do you know your profit and loss account? Do you know every line in that account and actually how to not manipulate, it's not the right word, to use them as levers to be able to deliver that profitable growth within the business? Do you know how to bring plans to life? And that's been the core of what we do in marketing. And talking about comms heroes here today, comms is one part of the wider piece that we need to do in marketing. Are you really able to utilize that insight and develop marketing and develop omni-channel plans to develop an experience? The next is not to just be able to take data, but to actually mine it and be able to develop actionable insight. The difference for me between insight and actionable insight is that you don't just look at the what, you look at the so what, and you look at the now what. You're bringing that insight into the business with clarity on what you are recommending that they do with it. And you're bringing that not just to one or two forums, you're bringing that to the whole organization so that you can be that true voice of the customer and deliver effective campaigns and activities that aid towards delivering that commercial growth. So if that's the technical skills, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be ever changing. I'm sure that if I was writing the whole marketer book today, having launched it last year, there'll be some more approaches that I included. Programmatic, maybe talking about neuromarketing or inclusive marketing, the podcast that I just recorded this morning. Okay, these are all latest thinking that are coming into the industry, changing the way that we better understand our consumers and our customers. We need to keep abreast of these changes, even if we don't want to bring them into our daily business, even if we don't want to bring them into our daily practice. We do need to keep abreast. And the Whole Marketer podcast does aim to do that for you in a bite-sized way. So all of those new approaches, we will bring the industry expert on that onto the podcast to allow you to at least understand the concept and whet your appetite if you want to go and explore it further. So that's the technical skills, the what, then there's the why, and there's the how, sorry. So the first, for me, the soft skills falls into two buckets. The first bucket is if we are the voice of the customer, we have to have that deep-rooted emotional connection with our customers, our consumers. The next is if we're going to lead that business, we've always been bringing things to market, but how do we do so embracing the wider organization? How do we do so in a cross-functional way? So let's talk about what skills or behaviors I believe marketers need to possess in order to lead those teams and bring those plans to life. The first is a visionary, being able to dream big without limitations, being able to see palpably where you want to take the brand or business. and being able to share that with the wider organization, that they feel so emotively connected that they want to be part of it. And that's where inspiring others comes into play. When I use the word inspiring, this is actually clear feedback that's been given from marketeers, what they're looking for, that are people that are leading marketing within their organization. They want to feel inspired, and they don't just want the story, they want to see the action being taken by those marketing leaders. And that is what inspires them. Bringing that vision to life through storytelling, enhancing and embracing the emotional benefit that that brings, but also taking ownership. Putting your hand up, I'll take that, I'll manage that work stream, I'll bring that to life. That external commitment is so important in getting others to come on the journey with you. The next is to be human. We're here to build that deep-rooted emotional connection with our consumers. We need to be human and show other people our vulnerabilities, show the people the challenges that we are facing, allow people to help us so that we can embrace that collective power within the organization. We want you to be entrepreneurial, to identify opportunities in the marketplace and to act with pace to bring them to market. The next is to have conviction behind your actions. It's one thing to put your hand up and say that you're going to do something. It's a whole nother to actually bring that to marketplace. So do you have the conviction in your actions? Do you have the bravery to take what insight you do have and make a choice? I often people will say to me, oh, insight gives us competitive advantage. I don't believe it does. I believe bravery with that insight is what gives us competitive advantage. The bravery to do something with it with pace in the marketplace. I often say that marketing is a challenging yet rewarding profession. It's having that resilience that allows us to process changes, curveballs, extra things that come in our way as we're heading towards the plans and the goals that we are achieving, and to process it quickly so that we can think about what we're going to do next and adopting that can-do attitude. We can't do it yet, but we will do it. Okay, those things are really key in the behaviors that I see in the marketeers that are really truly delivering change within their organization. The next is to build that deep-rooted emotional connection with your consumer. The first is curiosity. Are you curious? Are you the person that sits in a coffee shop or on a bus stand or at the tube station and watches people? Not what they're doing, but why they're doing it. That's a key skill to building and questioning consumers' behaviors. For me, insight is not what they're doing, it's why they're doing it. So that curiosity coupled with empathy, not what you think it's like to be in their shoes, but what it feels like for them to be in their shoes, is absolutely key to understand human behavior, but also connect with why they're doing what they're doing. I often say you can only help others to the extent in which you know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, which we'll talk on in a second about personal understanding, it's really hard for you to build that empathy and that emotional connection. The next is creativity. And not creativity in the sense of being artistic or being a creative within an agency. I'm talking about creativity of solutions. Having identified what your consumers or customers need, how creatively can we actually solve that problem? Okay, so really bringing that to life. And thinking broad, marketeers that don't just think about their category or don't just think about their one or two competitors, but really think about that broad competitive set. Who else am I competing with for this pound? Who else am I competing with in this dollar or this euro? Okay, it's not necessarily that person that IRI or Kantar are tracking. It's about that pound or euro that you are fighting with against your consumers, even more so in this recessionary times. And the last is to be the voice. If you have the power, you have the insight, you need to speak up. You need to speak up in every forum that you are present. You are the voice of the consumer or customer. So being able to say, this isn't what I believe our customers would do. This is what I believe our consumers would do, how they would respond. Bringing them as a human into every single forum. The next is the leadership skills. So if we've looked at the what, we've looked at the how we bring things to life and how we build that deep-rooted emotional consumer, then we need to be able to think about our leadership skills. Being able to stand in our power, know the true benefit of marketing, know that it can lead the commercial agenda, know that we can deliver that commercial growth for the organization, given if we are leading, given if we are standing in our power. The next is to be able to motivate, support, and provide clarity for our team. The thing that I see most commonly with marketers is that they don't know what that wider vision is for their organization. They don't know what those goals are. Maybe there's some values that are on an intranet, or maybe something that's been communicated at a conference 2 years ago, but they don't know what that commercial goal is that that organization is working towards. So if you're not setting it, we need to be able to find it. We need to be able to find that number, because we can divide a number, we can't divide a sentiment. So being able to set that clarity ourselves, or being able to understand it, because from that is what we drive and write our strategy from. And the next is to really think about the marketeers in our care. Many of you passionate marketeers have joined today to be able to listen and grow. But how do we make sure that we bring that within our teams? How do we make sure that we are not only developing our own marketing careers holistically, but we're developing the marketeers in our care holistically? And I often think that we arrive in leadership positions having only Sorry, I'm just seeing some of the comments in the book. Keep them coming, in the chat. I think we often arrive in leadership positions only having experienced the manager before us or the leader before us, and whether that was a positive experience, a negative experience, or somewhere in between. Whether you know what you want to do and adopt, what you definitely don't want to adopt, it takes time. It takes time to take a step back and really think about, what kind of leader do I want to be? What do I want to be known for, so I can develop a leadership style that is honest and authentic for me? And also what your team needs from you. What do they need from you? And I had a great podcast with Emily Chang, the author of The Spare Room, How to Define a Social Legacy. And something really poignant that she said that she does with every meeting with someone in our team is saying, how can I help you? Offer that help, offer that support, so that not only in the practical everyday, but whatever it is that they want or they need in order to develop their marketing careers, and really think about developing them holistically. But given that clarity, where are we going as a business? Where are we going as a team? What skills do I need you to be able to possess to get there? What skills do we not yet possess that we need to be able to develop together? What's our infrastructure to be able to meet the needs of the market, meet the goals that we want to develop? What are those development areas for our team as a whole, but also individually? We are developing individually as humans. I'm really passionate that you should be able to take the reins of your personal development and get real clarity about where you want to go next. Not where's the next obvious role within your organization, but you personally as an individual. And in order to make sure you are looking after your marketers in your care, we need to be able to have real clarity around what good looks like, setting those SMART goals for what success looks like. I always think about it as a marathon analogy. You wouldn't ask someone to run a marathon without telling them how long that marathon is, what kind of run that's going to be, whether it's uphill, whether it's downhill, whether they're getting any training to run that marathon, why you're running that marathon, what the incentive for them personally is for running that marathon, what that wider course is for running that marathon. You wouldn't ask anyone to do that. So without setting SMART objectives, it's a bit like asking someone to run a marathon without knowing where the finish line is. The next is to have clarity on the expectations for the team, clarity and expectations for them within their roles, within the framework, and also to build their personal understanding. If we're going to build our own personal understanding, how do we help others to do the same? And I'll talk a bit more about personal understanding in a second. To develop a learning culture, or an honest culture, or a culture that allows your marketers to make that shift. And you will know what shift that is for your organization, whether that's to be more agile, whether that's to be more responsive, to be more open, to be more inclusive, to be able to speak up, to be able to learn, to test and learn, whatever that is that your organization needs. But also to have those development work streams, different options that people can access, different things to allow them to grow, whether that's a book club, whether that's a talk like today, whether that's an external speaker coming in, whether that's formal training, whether that's a lunch and learn. What are those things that you're doing to bridge those capability gaps within the organization? And all of that combined allows your individuals in your care to feel supported and empowered. But more importantly, as being supported and empowered, we want to gain fulfillment. And for me, fulfillment lies in knowing your goals, where you want to go, but also living the life and career that is based on your values. People who know what they bring to the world. We often will do a Myers-Briggs or a insight wheel or another personal profile testing, insert here. And they are great to allow us to get an understanding of what we are like to be around and how best we can communicate with others. But for me, putting us in a box out of 1 to 16 isn't enough. Okay, our connection. Just bear with me 1 second. My laptop's literally about to die. Sorry. There you go, it's just come out the wall. Nice professional Monday morning for you. So what it is that they bring to the world, and really thinking about beyond that first layer of the onion. Everyone can see the onion. Everyone can see what type of onion you are, or what kind of exterior you have, but they don't know what's inside. They don't know, if you start peeling each layer of that onion back, do they know who they are? Do they own who they are? Do they know what they're like to be around? Do they know what drives them, what motivates them, what they need to have in an environment in which they thrive? And for me, this is why it's absolutely key to have both clarity on what your values are, your values being your core center and beliefs, the things that motivate you and give you energy behind your goals and things that you deem of importance, and where you're heading. Because if we're doing something every day that plays to our values, whether inside or outside of work, our cup will remain full. And if we spend every day edging closer to our goals, then we're going to gain fulfillment. And those two things are intrinsic in order to us feeling fulfilled. So people are saying, well, I know what my values are, or I know where I'm going. Great. But how do I make that happen? And for me, that's about where growth mindset comes in. We're going to come across bumps in the road. We're going to have belief systems that come up. We're going to have... Thanks, Asif. We're going to have limiting beliefs that come up. We're going to have an internal narrative that's trying to keep us safe, especially we start stepping outside our comfort zone. So for me, it's not the stopping on the first time that appears, but really thinking about how we overcome those limiting beliefs. We adopt that growth mindset that says, I don't have those skills yet, but I'm going to learn them. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm going to ask for help from somebody who already does and actually learn that skill. And we don't run out our goals at full pace. We take small daily action moving towards them. One phone call, one ask of help, one email, one webinar, one little thing that's going to edge us closer to those goals. But the key is having clarity about our goals and what we want for our life as a whole, and what we want from our roles in our wonderful but yet challenging profession. And the next is making sure that we're doing things that play to our values. Why? Well, it drove me to the reason I wrote the book. I see so many marketeers overwhelmed. I see them overwhelmed and frustrated from the breadth of role. It's great that we are now seeing that marketing should and could be leading the commercial agenda, but with that has become an increase in responsibility. With that has come an increase in breadth of role. With that has become more skills that we need to learn. And we're stretched more than ever. Comms or communicating was always the core of what marketing was seen to be doing. We need to do that plus everything else. And a lot of that has led to frustration. And so a great quote that I heard, which was he, and by all means add any gender prefix in there, who has a why to live can bear almost any how. If you want to get out of that daily frustration, or, I always say to anyone that I'm training in the morning, please turn your emails off, because I promise you that in any given day, there'll be an urgent one-pager that you've been asked to do. There'll be something somebody hasn't done that you've asked them to do, and something that needs to go out the door today. That is the life of marketing. But if you want to not get drawn into the weeds and get frustrated with every day, think about where you're going. Think about that bigger picture of where you're taking your brand or business. Think about that bigger picture about where you're going for your career and for your life as a whole. So just to reiterate this point, we can only help others in the extent in which we know ourselves. So if we don't build our personal understanding, it's going to be really hard for us to lead others and understand what drives and motivates them. If we don't understand ourselves and what drives and motivates us, it's going to be even harder for us to connect and understand our customers and consumers and what it's like for them to be in their shoes. So the question I want to pose to you today, having heard me talk about a holistic marketer, one that has the technical skills, the soft skills, the leadership skills, and the personal understanding, is, are you ready to take the reins? Are you ready to say, I own my career? This marketing career is mine, it's personal to me, and I want it to be working with me and for me, not to me. And my ask of you is that when you've got clarity about what it is that you do truly want to be doing, and there are many models in the book that allow you to arrive at where you are in your organization. You can assess all your skills, your technical skills, your soft skills, your leadership skills, and your personal understanding, and build all of those things. Once you've got that clarity on what kind of role that you want, that allows you to play to your values, that meets your strengths, that allows you to development growth, that allows you to fit with your life as a whole, start edging towards it. One action, one podcast, one email, one reframing of limiting beliefs, asking for help, asking why is this bothering and why do I need to do this? One phone call, just something small every single day that edges you closer to your goals. Before we go into Q&A, I just want to say, for those that are going to run, but those that aren't, please do keep in touch. There is a whole host of resource out there that we have developed for the whole marketer. There is the book, there is the podcast. If you go to www.thewholemarketer.com, you'll find some free resources on there as well. You'll also find access to our community and lots of training and programs that we offer both for you or for you as a marketing leader to help support your team. So that's me. You'll find me on LinkedIn, you'll find me on Instagram, but for now, I open up the floor.
Fantastic session, Abby, and thank you so much. Lots of great comments and loads of it. Let's have an emoji round of applause before I go into some comments. A lot of love there for you there, Abby, and some inspirational stuff from people. I'm just going through the comments. So one thing that's come up here is the soft skills element, and that part seemed to have resonated with people, and they've picked up on that. So that was mentioned from Adam Driver, and also Jules Loveland were in a conversation about that as well. Emma Elston really relating to this. Suddenly everything makes sense. And also I'll come back to soft skills in a second, but I saw a comment here. Stevie Pattinson Dick, I wish I had heard so much of this at the very start of my career, and especially my leadership career. And considering you just followed on from the panel, when I grow up, I want to be a comms hero, that I think it's quite apt with, give everyone a copy of the Whole Marketer book when you start your career, because I felt probably the same when I read the book as well. And so do you think the soft skills element, certainly marketing in going into a recessionary times where ROI and the things you mentioned are always, they're always at the heart of marketing and comms, in terms of justifying their existence and what have you. Is there this battle internally with the executive and the C-suite for the soft skills, investment in soft skills, because there's no necessarily tangible outcome straight away, unlike a campaign that, if you've delivered a fantastic ROI and you've hit targets, then you're a great marketer or you're a great comms person. But the soft skills is much harder to. What advice would you give to people to justifying that, to get training budget, or to themselves to invest that time?
Great question. I think for me, I think many organizations have some values, and they might, just think about an organization that's a client of mine. They have collaboration, and they talk about together, and there's always these values. And I think it's about the support to either help with the values of your organization or to help bring things to life. If you really want to link it to a commercial benefit, if you have those soft skills, you are better going to develop products and services that meet your consumers' needs, which we know is going to have a commercial benefit. you're better going to be able to work more collaboratively with other functions, which means that we're going to have greater success with launch and bringing things to market. I could go on. Better connection with our consumers, better motivation, retention of our employees. You're going to more likely be able to retain your talent within marketing, which we know is a problem that is rising about retention and the choice that marketers have and marketers coming into profession. So I think, if there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way to link the social skills with a commercial gain to the organization. Just choose which one is most motivating to your board would be my advice.
Yeah, no, good, sound advice there. And you mentioned curiosity as well. We've got a session coming up later on today from Mars Rahman about curiosity and that ability to ask questions. Do you think from a marketer's perspective, and you talked about creativity within that, but not creativity as in design agencies, creative agencies doing creative for campaigns, creativity in terms of asking things specifically about tactics of the job or the skills for the individual. Do you think curiosity is a skill that is probably underutilized or overlooked within the comms and marketing profession?
I think the definition of it is overlooked in the sense that, I know for many years, and I talk about this in my book, saying, "Oh, I'm not very creative," almost like an apology for any idea that I wanted to bring to the table. So if I was with an agency or I was with the wider team, well, I'm not very creative, but how about? There's almost like this caveat that I was saying there. And I think the second that you start to realize that creativity isn't just a comms idea, it is any idea that solves any problem, that apology, for me anyway, started to be removed and start to think about it as problem solving. And, in order to problem solve, or in order to have creativity, you have to have exposure to many experiences and many things that you've seen to have ideas to draw on. So I think creativity is less of a talent now and now something that we can learn as long as we adopt it with a much broader definition.
Yeah, no, great. That's fantastic. So I'm just going to Gemma Warren, who's marketing manager. This is brilliant. So lovely to hear that kind of feedback for the session. And I'll just pick up on this question here. Andrew Gledhill from Broadacres Housing. So I love the bravery with insight quote. Do you have an example you've used?
I love the bravery with insight quote. Do you have an example that you've used? An example of a business that does this really well is our good friends Amazon. And I use this example when I talk about, and also Bloom and Wild is another great example of two businesses that not only have their insight, but they do something with it and they do it quickly. So if we think about, I'll use the Bloom and Wild example because I'm sure that we've all heard an Amazon example over the years. And we all know that Amazon was driven to be more data centric. So it's no surprise. But Bloom and Wild are, for those that don't know, provide wildflowers, a subscription service that arrived through Letterboxd, so a D2C brand. And what they did during the pandemic is they noticed that there was a lot of female to female gifting happening during the pandemic. And they took that, they could have left that data as it was, but they didn't. They mined that further and they realized what was happening is the female to female gifting wasn't the classic reason that people were sending flowers historically around birthdays or anniversaries or wishing someone well. They were actually in terms of support, empowerment. I miss you, I've got you, hang on in there, isn't homeschooling hard? These were the types of messages that were being sent, friends to friends. And so they not acknowledged that, and they very quickly turned on a card option that was all about, you've got this, I've got you, I miss you. They made it a lot easier and they gave discounts around, sending flowers to friends. And if you now look at their latest advert, it actually is miles apart from Interflora in the sense that it does talk about that female to female gifting, and the situation they use is sister to sister to show that you're thinking of them or that you're trying to encourage them or support them or thank them, whatever that may be. And so for me, it's a really great example of not just noticing a change in behavior or noting something that's different happening in your business, but mining it and then doing something with it. And in this case, they changed their proposition, they've changed their comms, they've changed the way in which they use their promotional marketing. So I think that's a really great example of someone that's been brave and also act with pace to bring that change to market.
That's amazing. Abby, thank you so much. And that kind of wraps up the session. So again, can we have another final round of emoji applause for Abby? Fantastic to have you on, and thank you so much. And I'm sure lots of people have enjoyed this session and will continue to enjoy this session and bag those well-earned CPD points as well. So Ella Power there, Caroline Howarth. So lots of comments and emojis for you there. Thanks so much, Abby, and look forward to keeping in touch. Listen to the podcast, buy the book, and you'll find lots of great insight in those two resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Asif.